the recording, by all means, you can drop out. But I will be distributing this to other parties. So just kind of be conscious of what you're saying. Your questions, ask as many questions as you want. They'll be relevant to anyone else that would watch this, I could imagine. But you know that I am sharing this information later on after this recording, after this session. So start by saying, obviously, we're in a situation now where working at home or social distancing is very important. So that's why I'm actually doing this. This is a spur of the moment impromptu, so forgive me if everything does not work out exactly as I plan it. But I think that what I'm going to do today is just show the real basics of how we can collaborate with each other through Microsoft Teams. I'm going to abbreviate the internal abilities of Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to spend more time on the external abilities of Microsoft Teams. And again, anytime anyone has a question, just open your mouth and say so. This is an open forum. I've given it about 30 minutes, but I can go over and longer if I need to. Anyway, we're going to abbreviate the internal. We're going to spend more time on the external because I think that even just spending time on the external, it's applicable to the internal. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got Dave on the line. He's probably not in the call, but he's definitely on the chat, okay? And so he knows that I am going to demonstrate inter-office messaging with him. Now, I'm not going to share a video with him or do a video call, okay? I'm just going to show you how to chat to somebody else in your Microsoft Teams. Now, one other piece of housekeeping. Some of you have dialed into my conference call number. I completely know that many of you do not have the conference call add into your Microsoft Teams, and that's fine. So think of it like this. I am not dialed into my Microsoft Teams. Everything I'm doing is over my PC and microphone. You would do the same thing as well as the person on the other side would do the same thing. They would not call in. You could, as some of you have done, you could call each other, okay? So pick up the phone, whatever their cell phone number is, whatever their number they're at, call them, and you can then, if you want to do it over the telephone, they don't have a microphone or a camera on their side, you can do it over the telephone as well as do Teams at the same time. Just know that on their side, if you have a microphone and they don't, they may be hearing double. Your advice to them would be, if you're hearing double and you're on the phone call with them, mute your microphone and turn your volume down on your computer, and then would stop the echoes, okay? So that's kind of how you'll avoid that complication. I'm not dialed in. You don't have to dial in. We could have done this all over Teams without dialing in, as long as you have a microphone and a webcam. Now, to show you how I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna show you real quick my what I'm planning on doing. So before I join Dave in, give me a second. I want to show you my presentation. Not really exactly presentation, but I'm going to show you a really quick and dirty PowerPoint. You could probably see the wrong screen, but that's okay. Give me a second. One moment, I'm going to share my PowerPoint. And so I don't care that you're seeing all the slides. I think it's more important today that everybody just understands that here's where I'm going. We're going to quickly cover inter-office messaging. Then I'm going to move right into meetings. And I'm going to talk about internal, external meetings in the same conversation, because I think they quickly apply to each other. How to create a meeting, the various ways, how to join meetings, both you and the other participants that may not be in the organization firm, show you how to share your video, and then show you how to share screens. That's what I'm going to go over. I might jump into a couple of other options at the same time, but we're going to start right here, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing it. Again, any questions, just blurt them out. Okay, so first I'm going to share my desktop to everyone. Don't worry, I'll show everyone how to do that in a little while. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to share my desktop. I'm going to pop over into Microsoft Teams. I'm in Teams in a meeting right now, but I have chat, I have Teams, the same thing I always have. I'm going to actually just go over here and chat with Dave. I have a list of people in my organization and groups of people. If I chat with Dave great, I do. But if I don't, I would do a new chat right here using this button at the top. I would click on that and I would type the person's name, enter office. Notice that Dave pops up. So Dave's an easy person for me to grab. If I don't have him pinned to the left, no problem. It brings up all of our history. If I chat with David regularly in office, I could click on the ellipses next to his name and I could say pin him, but he's already pinned, so it says unpin. All right. If Dave kind of starts to bother me a little bit too much, and I don't do this too often because he's a good guy, but I could mute my conversation with him. Maybe we've got a group of things that are going crazy in the office and people are talking at the same time. Maybe I just want to mute that temporarily, okay? So I'm not getting all those pop-ups. But I'm going to go over here with Dave, and I'm going to chat. Hi, Dave. Why is this useful? Well, maybe we don't want to send an email. Maybe we don't want to pick up a phone. Maybe we don't want to send a text message. Maybe we're just going to want to put something there so the next time they open up Teams, they see that. And so, are you actually on the call too? I don't really worry about, typos too much in my Teams messaging. I just want to see if he's hearing me at the same time. Oh, look at him trying to be the funny guy. That was not staged. Okay, he's on the call. Good. All right, so Dave, I'm going to move away from my my chat with you, and since you're on the call and you are hearing me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to off my do not disturb, and I'm going to go back to just busy, and I'll explain to everyone the differences and why. But Dave, I'm going to go back to my actual meeting and away from this with you, and forgive me, everyone. And so I wanted everybody to see that, right? Thank you, Dave. That was a really good example. You didn't mean to do it, but notice when I'm in Teams and I'm available for chatting with people, it pops up when I'm actually not looking at Teams. Thanks, Dave, for the example. Okay, notice it's gone. Dave, go ahead and say you're welcome, please. And since I'm not chatting with him, I'm doing something else. Once he does chat with me, it'll pop up. Okay, so I'll get a number of these. These go away after a while, but there are nice status alerts. When you're looking for all your statuses, when you get back to the office and you're logging into Teams, you'll find them. They'll be all the ones that are bolded here. Okay, so that's the simple inner office messaging. Now, if I wanted to, I could add somebody else. So I'm in the chatting with Dave, and I could easily click on this, and I could add somebody else to the chatting, and then you would see that person like a Paul and Dave at the same time as you see down here. Okay, a Paul and Dave down there, it would pop up. Now, know that the history, a lot of people ask this question, if I add somebody, the history of the conversation between Dave and I does not populate into the now added person and me and Dave's chat history. Okay, those histories are kept separate, so that person doesn't see that confidential information that we've just said behind their back, right? Now I say that, but I also say be very careful with that at the same time. Now that I say that, anytime that I just don't trust this kind of stuff, right? I would not take that with an absolute grain of salt. Okay, I would just be careful. Now, also, since I'm in a chat with Dave, I could video call with him if I wanted to, and that is through Teams. I could call him through Teams and have an audio call only, or we could have been on the phone and I could have shared my screen to him here. All right. So I hope everyone sees these up in the top right. These are the buttons if I'm talking to an individual. That is, in a nutshell, intra-office meeting stuff, right? All these buttons will apply to external just as well. So I'm going to go back to the external. Any questions before I move on from anyone else at this point? Good, great. Okay, so let's talk about how do we start meetings, okay? How do we create a meeting? Well, I have a number of mechanisms in which to create a meeting. Obviously, I can do one within Teams, but I'm not a big fan of doing it in Teams. Instead, I like to do it from Outlook, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because, again, in a Teams meeting, you want to be careful of the confidential information that you might have. And since you can see my full desktop, I don't want you to see what's in my email. So I'm going to stop my sharing at this time. Okay, I'm going to pop over into my my email. I'm going to start a new message. I'm sorry, a new meeting invite. Then I'm going to minimize, and I'm explaining what I'm doing so you can kind of understand what I'm doing. And then I'm going to share my screen again. So now I've got a new meeting invite on screen 1. Okay. And this is a new calendar invite. All right. The new calendar invite, I put my title, I put my people in here, I put my date and time, and then I click on the Teams button. And it'll add Join Microsoft Teams Meeting. Since I have the conference call add-in, it adds this in addition to it. Since most of you do not have the conference call add-in, it will just add this line. As far as customizing and get your logo in it, I can show you how I can send a document out where we can do that for you later on. That's kind of a nicety. And there are some requirements on the size of the logo, but that's how you do it. And then you send it to them. Now, keep in mind when they get this, it's just like an email, and it comes in their inbox, whether it's Gmail or Outlook, right? And then they would accept it. They could accept it in Gmail because I think it does a universal acceptance type of thing. And in their Outlook, they would accept it as well. Mind you, that this, once they've accepted it, this email then kind of goes away to this other place, right? Because it's went to the calendar as an invite, as a calendar appointment, okay? So what happens, how do they get back to this? To join the meeting is always the question, and I always find people get confused. Wait, I don't know how to join the meeting. Well, they could go to their calendar, and they could join the meeting from their calendar. And I'm gonna pause again my screen. I'm gonna stop sharing because I don't want people to see too much of my Outlook. I'm gonna go over to my calendar, my Outlook. I'm gonna hide Dave's calendar because we share calendars all the time, and I'm gonna basically come back online so you guys can see my calendar today. And I've cleared my calendar for demonstrations today. And so you would say, well, it's on your calendar. Go to your calendar and find the calendar invitation that you sent them with the title blah blah blah. They could double click it from there, and then they could just click the link. And that's one way. Okay. Now I'm also going to show you 2 other ways. So if they do have Outlook, then they could potentially get a reminder message pop up in their Outlook, from their Outlook. So I'll come over, bring my PowerPoint over to this screen, and here's a screenshot of what that could look like. And you see the Join Online button. Outlook is smart enough, the newer versions, to know that this is a Teams meeting, and they could click it from here. All right. That is one way that they could do it. Alternatively, if they have the taskbar to the right of their Outlook, sorry for the overlay, if they have the taskbar to the right of their, that's kind of embarrassing. If they have the taskbar to the right of their Outlook that has a list of their appointments, they could easily, I'm trying to clean this up, they could easily now click on this button that's under the calendar underneath their Outlook toolbar to the right of their email. And if you don't know how to get this up, then I can send you a short document on how to get this to show up. But it's a listing of all your calendar appointments on the right side of Outlook. So if they've got Outlook, you've got Outlook, you know, and it's independent of each other. You could potentially tell them, well, do you have your calendar on your right-hand side of Outlook? If they are in their Gmail and they accepted it in their Gmail, well, I'm not a Gmail expert, but you can tell them to go to their calendar in Gmail, go to the day and time that you're supposed to be meeting with them, which would be right now, open up that item, there is a link in there. Let's suppose all else fails and they just can't find it, okay? Well, guess what? Start the meeting, tell them, hang on a minute, start the meeting, and I'm hoping you can see my team. Somebody confirm they're seeing my Teams meeting here, please, anyone?
I see it.
Great. Okay, great. Thanks, Deb. So hopefully that you've got the Teams meeting. You could come down here on the ellipses and say show meeting details. And if you can't see that menu, my apologies. I'm not sure if you can, but there's a menu option that shows show meeting details. It will be available in the video. Click on it, and guess what? It's right here. All you have to do is copy the join information, and here I'll email it to you again. Okay? And so that's how that works. Then you can paste that into an email to them. I'll show you once again. new email, and Control V, paste, and you can send it to them. Here, I'm sending you an email. Once you get it, click on that link. Okay. This is why I always recommend that if we're doing a call with an individual, don't rely on the Teams audio in the beginning, especially, okay? Because people have problems joining and you just want to be able to help them. So, any questions so far? Well, that's good. All right, I'll continue. So finally, not finally, but in addition to that, let's go back to our PowerPoint and see where we're at now. Okay, so there's that. Go back to this. All right, so that's okay, so the other way that you can meet with somebody is you could be on the telephone with them, and maybe this wasn't a pre-organized meeting, and so maybe you want to say, you know what, I want to share something with you. I want you to see what I'm looking at. And so what you could do is what's called a Meet Now in Microsoft Teams. All right, so you go to your Microsoft Teams. You go to your calendar in your Microsoft Teams. All right. If you do not have this calendar in your Microsoft Teams, and maybe even if you do, I might recommend coming over here to your profile picture, dropping it down and saying, you know what, just check for updates to see if there's a new Microsoft Teams and then let it install it. It'll do it behind the scenes. You don't have to do any intervention. And it might tell you to restart your Teams, but I would do this before your meeting. And so you come to your calendar, you go over to the calendar, and you could use this wonderful Meet Now button, okay? By the way, I could create a new meeting in here too, but most people do not create their meetings in Teams. Most people are going to create their meetings in Outlook more than likely, okay? But you do this Meet Now, and I'm going to click it because it'll start a new meeting. I don't want to start a new meeting, but what it'll do is it'll start the process of creating a new meeting that you can then send and copy the meeting invite to them and email it to them. Since you're meeting with them right now. So that's one way to do it. Also notice that there's a new meeting here for scheduling a meeting, and we're not talking about live events. Well, I get a lot of questions. What are the limitations on a meeting, on an impromptu meeting or a scheduled meeting? The limitation is 250 users or people, 250 people in a meeting, scheduled meeting or Meet Now or calendar created meeting. You know, one of these types of meetings. The live events, which you may or may not have, I think there's something like 100,000. It's a crazy number. And those are for great big events, and they're not exactly live. So most of us are going to be scheduling meeting, and you can do up to 250. I have successfully had 60 people in a meeting. It gets a little wieldy when people don't mute their phones, and also it gets a little unwieldy when they have technical problems too. So I caution you on the number of users at any one time. All right. So that's the Meet Now. Now let's talk about the joining. We talked about the Outlook reminders. We talked about the events. We even talked about the Outlook to-do bar. Okay. I even think I in the Teams calendar. Oh, I didn't show that to you. I'll show it to you real quick. In the Teams calendar, notice it says join. So there are a number of options. I think most of us that have Teams will probably start our meetings and join our meetings from reminders and maybe from our calendars, our Outlook calendars and such. So, okay. Now, I'd like you to see what the other side sees when they try to join that meeting, okay? So they're going to click on that link that you're going to send them one way or another, okay? And this is generally what they're going to come and see. Now, when you click on how do you join the meeting? Well, you click on the join just like they do. You start the meeting for everyone, and then you'll still go to this screen, but it'll just quickly change from this screen to your Microsoft Teams more than likely. Okay. However, attendees that don't have Microsoft Teams, my recommendation is they do it via the web under the join on the web instead. Okay, that's my recommendation. Why? Because it's just less trouble for them. Okay, it's easier for them. Join on the web instead. The reason I say is because they don't have to worry about downloading. They don't have to worry about logging in. They don't have to worry about a whole bunch of stuff if they just join anonymously. Okay, now in an event where the person that you're dealing with is at an organization that has Microsoft Teams, well, they're probably going to join using their Teams. But there are some securities in place that may prevent them. So if they already have Teams and maybe they don't know it, well, they might not be able to join using their Teams program. So you can have them try using the web instead, and then they would be joining anonymously. I can't give you every scenario because I can't control every company. And if you can help me figure that one out, we'll all be rich. And so, but I can tell you that most of the time, even the organizations that have Teams and they have security set up that can't meet us in a Teams meeting, they can join the web instead, but they don't want to log into it. But your users that don't have Teams, they're going to join using the web. They're going to put in their name. They're going to probably put in their email address. It's going to install it behind the scenes, and they will quickly be joined. They can do a lot of different things in this. They can use their webcams. In some cases, they can see what you're sharing to them. In some cases, they may be able to share to you, and we're going to cover this stuff in a minute. They might even be able to use the audio through it as well. So it's pretty flexible. I will say, believe it or not, best practices have Microsoft Chrome as the browser to use because it's more compatible with all of the functionality that Microsoft has available through the browser than any other browser. So they might have Safari, they might have Internet Explorer, they might have Edge, they might have Firefox. Our recommendation is if they have Chrome, that's the best one. If they don't have Chrome, just the limitations go down from there. For example, I believe with Firefox, they cannot use video. I don't know. I just don't know. But just know that there are some limitations and that Chrome is I think it's Chrome 10, I want to say. I forget the release version, but it's got to be a semi-updated version of Chrome, not the most recent. So that's how they're going to join. Now, once they've joined, how do you show video and how do you show screens? Now we're kind of coming to the meat of it all, okay? So it's really not that difficult. As you can, I hope you can see, can everybody see my hang up button and all that in my Teams bar?
Yeah.
Anyone?
I see it.
Okay. So on the Teams bar, there's a few things. I started recording. They can't start a recording on their side, but you can, I don't know. I don't know if they can or not. I know that they cannot using the web, some of the web versions. This is how I share video. So if I share a video or stop video, you guys can see or not see me. And this is our actual live meeting in process. So right now I turn off my video, turn on my video. And when I turn it on, since I have two cameras front and back, I can switch cameras in the actual meeting. There's my front camera, my Surface, and it should switch back. That's probably, there it is right there. Okay. I can mute my microphone so you and then I can unmute. Okay. I am sharing my screen right now, but when I share my screen, I'm going to bring up a picture that I made because I can't show you it otherwise. When I share my screen, this is essentially what we get. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, everyone. Forgive me. So it is typically an up arrow when I can share, okay? And then once I click it, and I'll have a lot of questions regarding this, I'm sure of it. When I click it, then I'm presented with what I can share, okay? Let's not talk about the whiteboard stuff. That's fun for later on, a little more advanced. But I can share my whole desktop, or I can share maybe just my web browser or a document that I have open and so on and so forth. So I had some questions on this earlier. I'm going to cover them as best I can right now. What should you do? What should you share, and how can I keep them from seeing what they shouldn't see? First rule of thumb, only share what you're comfortable with. And for safety's sake, close anything that you could potentially accidentally share with them that they should not see. Now, there are occasions where we need to have our email open because we may need that in a spur of the moment to show them a particular email that I got from so-and-so on something we're dealing with. So how do I ensure that they don't see that? Okay, so I would stop sharing at the time, and I'm not going to go through this. I would stop, I'll do it. I would stop sharing at this time, which and now I'm not sharing, but you can see my video. okay? And I can tell I'm not sharing because I have an up arrow in my share button. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go grab that particular email that I want you to see, but I don't want you to see anything else. And I'm going to go ahead and minimize everything else once again. And then I'm going to share again. And I can share that full desktop. I'm okay with that because I have safely minimized everything that I don't want anyone to see, okay? And as you can see, I've got that email, all right? And if I wanted to, I could switch over to something else and show that to you too, okay? All right, and I can show you multiple things. How do I know what I'm sharing, okay? This is a question I get all the time. And so I've got it in a screenshot. Whatever I am sharing will have an outline of red. So if I'm sharing the whole desktop, I will have a red outline around the whole desktop. But since in this picture, I'm only sharing this email, okay, now then that is the only thing that anyone will see, okay? And so, you know, I'm switching between things and you can see them. So remember, Alt-Tab, if I'm sharing my, I'm sharing a whole desktop. Alt-Tab shows that whole desktop. Just be very careful, all right? Any questions on that? And if there's not one, I would be surprised. Let me just check messaging to make sure nobody's trying to chat. Yeah, okay, good. I feel kind of good that we covered that. That's a pretty difficult one to cover for people always have questions on it. So just remember, close everything just in case. Know that you can share your whole screen or you can share just a particular window. And when you want to switch from windows, you stop sharing and you close whatever you want, open what you ever need to open and share that particular item or share the whole desktop again. So that's my recommendation for sharing. Now, again, that if it is a guest, they cannot edit the video or control the document that you're working on, okay? And you generally cannot control what they're showing on their screen because they can share in some situations to you as well. Again, it's browser based. So whether they share or not, well, I want to show you my document version of that. They can share it too, okay? Just tell them to click that button to share. Let's share one screen, stop sharing, pretty easy. Hopefully you can see the window. I'm sharing this right now, it moves out of the way. I click that button and now I'm no longer sharing. Okay, I'm going to share again because I do want to show you in case you get in situations where you have a bunch of people and you want to kind of control what everybody is doing to a degree. You have them all mute. One person can sit in the background and monitor the chat messages. Oh, I stopped sharing, sorry. I'm going to do it again. I didn't mean to do that. So what we do sometimes is we have a meeting where I'll be working and Dave or somebody else will monitor for the conversations to see if anybody is actually sending any messages in our conversations. And then Dave will pop in and say, hey, Jim, I got a question, or or answer it himself. The other thing is that your participants, this is a very important thing. Most of your Microsoft Teams will be set up so that your participants, when they join, as you did, join into a lobby. And I can't show you that lobby, but know that you would have to come over into the participants and you would have to admit them into the meeting, all right? I would strongly recommend not asking us to turn that off ever. You just never know what you could be talking about and somebody could slip in and you wouldn't hear them. So you would have to admit them. And then we're at 2:30, and the final thing I'm going to show you, and I'll handle the questions, is what if I'm doing this and I just don't want anybody to see what's behind me? This is a nice thing for blur my background, and now you might not be able to make out what's behind me as well as you were before. So if my kids pop in, although I'm at the office, my kids pop in, at least you can't make out what they look like, and they won't scare you that way. So that is the, and then finally, I'm not going to do it, but how do I end the meeting for everyone? The little red button, okay, is the way to end meeting for everyone. I caution you, I have made this mistake before, and I'm sure that you guys do the same thing. Whenever we're on a conference call, we always wonder if everybody's hung up. Well, when you hang up here, as long as you're not through conference call, or on the telephone with them still, you've effectively ended the communications with them. So just be careful what you might want to say right after you've discontinued the meeting. Just double check to make sure everyone is out of the meeting. So that's what I've got. Does anyone have any questions at all? I'm happy to field them now. And if you're having problems speaking or you communicating, definitely chat in the chat window. Come over to the Teams bar and show conversations, and you'll be over here. I love it. Okay. Hey, you know what? I'll give one more add-on here for everyone. Let's suppose you want them to actually get a document. You want to email it to them. I caution us to teach thank you, Patty. Caution this to teach everyone. You can do a whole bunch of little fun things in the office and out of the office with emojis and GIFs, but this file thing right here, you can attach files in the meeting while you're actually in the meeting. So I want everybody to open this, I would say, hey, you know what? I want everybody to be able to see this and send them whatever that is, right? Whatever you're trying to share with them. Caution what you upload, because that is definitely, if you do have data loss prevention enabled in your Office 365, which keeps you from sending Social Security numbers, credit cards, and such to people, that is applied here, but that is Office 365 DLP versus something like Mimecast DLP. Okay, Mimecast does not control Teams data loss prevention. So you could, if it's not enabled, and it's not in all of your cases, send financial records per health, PII, PHI over Teams to somebody outside of the office. If you need something like that, then Dave and I should talk to you about that later on if you're going to do a lot of Teams meetings. So, but you all should be able to go over messaging and actually click on it and open it and see whatever I put in there. This is just a preview of it. Okay. Same with files. That's all I've got. Give me your questions. Beat me up. No one. I like it. Laura, can your group still hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay. And Patty, you and Debbie have any questions?
Now, I kind of think we have to use it.
You do.
And then we'll have questions.
You got it. And that's why that's why I had you join by teams. And I didn't get the turnout I thought, but that's okay. I mean, it's important to you guys. Everybody else knows I'm going to record it anyway, so that's why people didn't show up. But I think the important thing is we did this through Teams. You saw the other side by joining the Teams meeting with me, okay? And I've shown you the hosting side of the Teams meeting. Now you just got to do it. Now everybody, just log into their Office 365 Teams. They can do this through the web browser. You can go to, I think it's teams.microsoft.com and actually log into your Teams as a Teams user. So you don't have to have the full application. The other thing I'll say is that Teams does have a phone application, and a lot of the functionality is very much the same on the phone application as it is in the desktop application. It says, I'm going to go ahead and join. I'm going to get some echo here, so forgive me. I'm going to join through my phone. Oh, sorry, let me unblur. It's little tips since we're really done. If you got to go, you got to go. So I've used my Teams in my phone, and I've joined on my phone too. Everything works exactly the same thing. Notice I'm doing that screen sharing. So if I would, now you can't share your screen as well, and I say that as well, from your phone, but you can see what others are sharing from your phone in a Teams meeting. And you've got the hang up bar and all that stuff that you have in the regular desktop meeting. So I would recommend, at least for intra-office chatting, go ahead and get Teams on your phones so that everyone can chat to you using Teams on your phone, whether you're in the office or not. And that's all I've got. I could go on, but I don't think it's so important right now. If there are no questions, you're welcome to hang up and give me your feedback later on by email. All right. Bye, Patty.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting.
can.